Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Hamas would pay the full price after it was announced one of the 4 bodies released on Thursday did not include mother Shiri Bibas. The militant group released the bodies of 4 deceased Israeli hostages and claimed they included 3 members of the Bibas family. However, Netanyahu said the body released was of a Gazan woman instead. 24 living hostages have been released in recent weeks under the first phase of a tenuous ceasefire that paused 15 months of fighting between Israel and Hamas. Hamas are scheduled to hand over 6 more living hostages on Saturday in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held by Israeli forces. However, it is unclear whether the scheduled swap will take place and under what conditions.
Israeli police say that several explosions targeted empty buses in the central city of Bat Yam in what they're labeling a suspected terror attack. Large units were dispatched to the scene to investigate the incident and search for clues and suspects. Authorities say they're aware of at least 5 explosive devices that either detonated or were disabled, with all of them having timer devices. Israeli media outlets are calling this a strategic terrorist attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called for an emergency meeting to discuss the incident. Police say no casualties were reported and investigations are ongoing.
2 women have been killed in a knife attack at a shopping centre in the Czech Republic. It happened in a store where both of the women were reportedly employees in the northern city of Hradec Králové. Police say a 16-year-old youth has been detained in connection with the stabbings.
Podezřelého muže jsme zastihli přibližně po 10 minutách necelý kilometr od místa činu. Zadržela ho na místě zásahová jednotka.
Reports initially said the victims had been injured, but police later said both had died. Neither of the women have been identified. The motive for the attack isn't immediately known, but an investigation is ongoing. Police say the situation is under control and there's no further danger to members of the public.
With hundreds of thousands of dead or wounded and no end in sight, war has been raging on for nearly 3 years in Ukraine. But the successes and mistakes of both Ukraine and Russia are a lesson for the French army. This high-intensity conflict foreshadows the war of tomorrow due to the many technological and tactical innovations. It's even pushed the French army to go as far as to create its own special defense innovation unit.
Ce qui est important pour nous, c'est finalement l'innovation et la capacité d'adaptation qu'on a constatée au cours de ce conflit, qui pour nous en fait mobilise vraiment notre énergie en préparation.
One key takeaway this year, the hidden electronic warfare battle that's reshaping the Ukraine war. This has forced French military leaders to consider where there are gaps in their own capabilities.
Si vous êtes plus capable d'utiliser votre téléphone portable parce qu'il n'est plus capable d'aller se relier à une borne, c'est quand même un petit peu compliqué. Voilà, donc dans le champ militaire, que ce soit pour les communications, que ce soit pour les systèmes de guidage à base de GPS, donc ce qui fait partie de notre quotidien, que ce soit pour les systèmes d'échange d'avions entre eux, ou voire même le guidage d'un drone avec son pilote, tout ça exploite le champ électromagnétique. Et donc être en mesure d'agir sur ce champ, c'est être capable d'interdire son utilisation. Et c'est un domaine qui bouge très très vite. Il faut qu'on soit bien présent là-dessus parce que c'est un élément clé.
The war even inspired the creation of a new NATO Ukraine Center in Poland, inaugurated this week to help the alliance learn important lessons from the battlefield in Ukraine.
The office of President of the United States.
And will to the
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
Barely a month after the inauguration of Donald Trump as President of the United States, transatlantic relations are on the rocks. Trade has been one of the main areas of concern, as Trump has threatened to impose heavy tariffs on imported European goods.
On trade, I have decided for purposes of fairness that I will charge a reciprocal tariff, meaning whatever countries charge the United States of America, we will charge them.
Unjustified tariffs on the European Union will not go unanswered. And let me speak plainly. We are one of the world's largest markets. We will use our tools to safeguard our economic security and interests, and we will protect our workers, our businesses and consumers at every turn.
While keeping Europe out of the peace talks in Ukraine, Trump has entered into bilateral negotiations with Russia and opened the door to granting numerous concessions to Vladimir Putin.
I don't see any way that a country in Russia's position could allow them, just in their position, could allow them to join NATO. I don't see that happening. And long before President Putin, Russia was very strong on the fact that I believe that's the reason the war started.
We will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in the negotiations, providing security guarantees in reconstruction and as a future member of the European Union.
In the run-up to early elections in Germany, the Vice President of the United States criticized an alleged decline in freedom of expression in Europe.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America.
Deshalb werden wir es nicht akzeptieren, wenn Außenstehende zugunsten dieser Partei in unsere Demokratie, in unsere Wahlen und in die demokratische Meinungsbildung eingreifen.
According to a recent study, Europeans now regard the United States as a, quote, necessary partner rather than an ally.
One day before the third anniversary of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Germany will head to the polls. Yet throughout the election campaign, support for Ukraine has not appeared to be a top priority for the leading candidates and their parties. Former Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba explained why he believes the war has played such a minor role in the election campaign.
You don't believe that this is going to happen to you. Because look around, walk the streets of Berlin, everything is so nice. You forgot that all of this can be gone, and you don't want to think that this is something that may come to your home. As we never could imagine that anything like this would be happening in our country.
Kuleba issued a stark warning about Russian President Putin's ambitions, questioning whether Germany and the West have truly learned from history.
Putin will test NATO if Ukraine falls. I'm not saying this as a Ukrainian who maybe, people may say, of course, he's trying to pull us into the war, he's trying to scare us. No, we will manage it. You failed to manage Putin for 20 years, and he knows that. And his only goal will be to destroy Ukraine and destroy the West, because this is his ambition, this is how he wants to go down in history. You don't want to believe us, as you never wanted to believe us before 2022. Well, what can I say? History repeats itself, and when European politicians solemnly declare never again on each and every anniversary of the First and Second World War, they are lying, because history repeats itself again and again.
The coming German elections are crucial not only for the EU, but also for Ukraine.
Cutting pesticide use by half in the EU by 2030 was a key goal of the European Green Deal, but that target, put on hold by the European Commission last year, has now been shelved indefinitely. In an interview with Euronews, EU Agriculture Commissioner Christoph Hansen confirmed that reviving this idea is no longer on the EU executive's agenda.
A lot of pressure. It didn't work out, and now we have no progress at all. Is that...
But still it's off the table.
It is off the table, exactly, so no progress at all. And I believe with this process where we take the farmers on board and we take the civil society on board, in the European Board on Agriculture and Food, we determine there and discuss about solutions that are applicable and effective on the ground to achieve those targets.
The plan to halve pesticide use in the EU was withdrawn by the Commission 1 year ago following mounting opposition from right-wing parties and widespread farmer protests. At that time, Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stressed that the pesticide reform would stay on the agenda with possibility of a more mature proposal. But now Hansen says any new EU initiative on pesticides will focus on trade and innovation aspects rather than on reduction targets.
But it is important that we encourage them rather with incentives to achieve goals rather than to say just from a top down this is the number, and we exactly see what happened with those numbers when it goes to the co-legislative process. It is like a big auction, who bids more for on percentage.
Instead of tightening environmental standards, the Commission New Vision for Agriculture and Food, unveiled this week, prioritizes making farming a more attractive job, particularly for young generations. A clear sign that, for now, environmental ambitions are taking a backseat to economic and political realities.
And therefore our farming and food producing community